Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And you know, here on the Ground and Pound podcast, we had to get on the drama, get in on the action here of the unfortunate no contest due to an eye poke with Tom Aspinall taking on Cyril Gane at UFC 321. We got to talk about this eye poke. We got to talk about this from a different perspective here. I'm going to pass it over to Carlos to get his perspective. What did you think about Tom? What did you think about the whole incident? And were you disappointed with the overall result?
Well, I think everybody was pretty much disappointed with the result. They wanted to see that fight go the full length because Gane was definitely getting the best of Aspinall in the first round. But in a 5 round fight, it was good to see Tom start to have to think about what he's going to have to do next. We would have got a chance to see is he able to make adjustments within the fight, and then we didn't get to see that. But Gane definitely came out. He looked sharp. He looked smooth, and I said to you before, I'm pretty sure not too many people have figured out Gane on the feet. He's got very good movement. He's athletic. I think probably the better athlete in out of the two of them between him and Tom. And he was going to cause some problems, And the takedown defense, I don't think Tom really went in for that takedown hard enough. But you know, I'm assuming there'll be a rematch, so I'll definitely be down to see that. But um, don't know why Tom's been getting a little bit of he doesn't have enough heart. He's not tough. Fight through it. Fighters fight. He had a human moment where he was probably thinking in his head will I be able to see out of this eye? You know what I mean? You panic. Probably happens whether you panic or you're just nervous. You're like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever be able to see out of this eye again. So that's probably why he yelled, I can't see to the ref. And I get it. It happens. First time he ever faced a little bit of adversity, and it was a foul, so not a big deal. He comes back as long as he's all healed up. I got no problem with that. I don't know why he gets a lot of shit online for it, but I think he's tough. I think he's physical. I think he'll be ready to get back in there. So um, with Gunn, I think he added a lot you know, to his arsenal. Hopefully, we'll get to see a little bit more of that takedown defense, how that works, how good he is on the feet. But uh, accidents happen. It's kind of a rough accident having your fingers go that deep in someone's eye socket, but um, it is what it is. I can't wait for the rematch. How about you? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all MMA fans, I said this to a couple of my buddies. This was one of the fights that I'd look forward to for months. We haven't seen Tom Aspinall in a long time. Obviously, we forget, that whole saga that played out with him and John Jones, that he'd been out for a whole year. Cyril Gane is obviously a good test for any fighter in the heavyweight division. And he, like Carlos said, he looked like he was getting the better of the exchanges early, and we've never seen Tom really pushed. So I was excited to see how this one played out, and unfortunately, it played out in a way that no fan was going to be happy with. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I know that Carlos had a take, and we talked about this a few days ago, was a lot of the hate that Tom's been getting online about, he's a quitter and all this type of stuff is a crazy take for me. At the end of the day, he was the recipient of a foul by Gane. It happens. It's been going on in MMA for a while, and the one opponent that Tom was supposed to fight in John Jones has been a king of the eye pokes for a long time. So maybe that's exactly how that fight was going to play out if we ever got to see Jones versus Aspinall. Maybe we're looking at karma here. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the way I see this is, how can you blame Tom for being poked in the eye? And let's say he continues to fight and he says, fuck it, I'm going to listen to the fans. They're all booing me. They want me to fight. And he says, fuck it, I can't see out this eye, so I'm going to continue to fight. And he gets, I don't know, head kicked, knocked out, whatever the case may be. Gane takes his belt. How is that a good look for his career? He's got to think about himself, his own health, his own career. He's worked very hard to get to the belt. He's, finally got up to that, position to be able to, defend his belt for the first time. And the fans are over here booing him because he got poked in the eye. It's not his fault. Am I completely biased because I am a Tom Aspinall fan? Yeah, maybe. But when you think about reasoning, I don't understand why the fans are hating on Tom so much. At the end of the day, if you've never watched Karate Kid, the old school Karate Kid, they said in that movie, a man can't see, he can't fight. So what do you expect him to do? He's compromised in that sense, and Gane was the one that committed the foul. And when it comes to eye pokes and all these things, we're going to talk in a separate video a little bit more about what I think they need to do. I think they need to be stricter with some of these rule changes and, yeah, just implementing the rules a little bit firmer. These are obviously impacting fights, whether it be eye pokes, groin shots, grabbing the fences. I'd like to see a tougher stance on it. Carlos, what's your take on how the referee handled it and how the doctor came in? Because I know obviously you mentioned that Tom said, I can't see. What's your take on all of that when it comes to some fights have been waved off when fighters have said they can't see? How do you feel like it was all handled?
Well, I figured like just because it was the main event, obviously they're not going to try to stop it right away, and they probably could tell by his voice. And if you pay attention and you listen to it, he's like, I can't see." You know what I mean? So it's like he's also worried about that as well. So they're like, we can give him a minute to settle down, make up his mind. Maybe in a few minutes it'll come back. Throw some water on it, on the eye, cool it down with that towel that he had, and wipe it down. And sometimes that's good enough for it to come back right away. But in this case, it didn't. And most of the time, that's just the emotion of the fighter that they need to take into consideration. Is like, which I was happy they gave him the time to do it, and they weren't too quick to hurry and just call it as soon as he said it. They said, "All right, it's an eye. People are nervous about losing an eye, so okay, we're gonna give him some time. Give him some time." I felt like if it wasn't the main event, they probably would have stopped it a lot faster,
Yeah.
because that was the fighter admitting, and you can't get a fighter to admit anything. He'll kind of just stare at you most of the time because he doesn't want to say he can't see. He's usually going to wait for his corner to come in and say something for him. But in this case, I think they were good in how they handled it. I was kind of surprised. More so than like the fans, because like the fans can be crazy online. Like a lot of times like nobody's ever experienced anything like that, and for them to chime in and this is what a fighter should do, a fighter, I get it, but when the pros were actually ripping on him a little bit, I was kind of surprised because I guess the way that he was saying that he can't see kind of indicated that the fight wasn't. I kind of knew that it wasn't going to continue.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And I'm sure you had that same feeling too.
yeah.
But I'm sure there's a lot of fighters there that were like, "Come on, guy." In that point, I understand. You know what I mean? You can't be like, "I can't see. I can't see." You know what I mean? You got to be like, "Fuck, I can't see." Get a little angry, get a little pissed off, but you don't want to be that guy. As soon as you're on the plane and you feel a little turbulent, you start, "Ah, ah," you know what I mean? Don't panic, settle down, relax, see if the sight's going to come back. If it doesn't, you call it. You know what I mean? But I think that's more so what the fighters were talking about was don't get too crazy at the beginning. As soon as this happens, give yourself some time, let it hit. But to take an eye poke that deep, I think once they saw the replays, I think they could understand why he couldn't continue. I just think that the way he handled it is what they were kind of uh, poking fun of. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Not to poke fun at that. You know what I mean? But just to say like, you know, in short, man up a little bit.
Mm. Mm.
That's all they meant.
Kevin Holland had a funny take the other day. If you remember that fight that he had with Mike Malott, he made a good point with I don't know if you heard, but so he gets kicked in the nuts, and I think it's the referee or the doctor comes up to him and is like, "How do you feel?" He's like, "I just got kicked in the nuts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you think I'm feeling?" And that's kind of how I felt with Tom. It's like, he's just been poked in the eye really bad, and he's like, "How do you feel?" He's like, "I can't see." Like, they need to. I felt like they handled this one a little bit better than I've seen with previous eye pokes. You see in previous fights, the second the fighter says, "I can't see," they stop it. So I was surprised that when he said that straight away, I think even the commentary team made a point to say he just said he can't see, they're going to stop it. So like they even knew, once he said that. But I thought the doctor did a good job. He walked away. He said to the referee, "He's telling me he can't see right now. We're going to give him some time." I was like, that's how I prefer. Fighters to kind of have that time. They have the full 5 minutes. You might as well use it, especially like Carlos said with the main event. But my whole take on as well is it's frustrating for Tom when you consider the fact that he's been out for a year waiting to fight John Jones, and you know damn well that John Jones and all the John Jones dick riders are sitting at home just loving this. Maybe that's where a lot of this hate has come from. The people that were on the side of John Jones were probably sitting there going, this is your guy. Look, this is your guy. I knew he would have, I knew he wouldn't have beat John Jones just because he got poked in the eye. I think that's where some of this online hate is coming from, if I'm being honest. And I saw something that John posted as well on social media that was saying, look, I ran through Garn in however long in the first round, but he was losing and then he quit, and all this. So it just doesn't sit well, I think, for Tom Aspinall fans. But at the same time, it's one of those things where John Jones is sitting there in the background, he's laughing, he's having a good time, he's lapping it up now that he's retired. But as a fan, man, you got to know that this was a great fight either way, whether you're a Garn hater or you're a Garn lover, or if you're an Aspinall fan or whatever. This was a fight that I wanted to see. Tom's not really been tested. He's been running through everybody, and obviously it's a shame that we weren't able to see that. But what's your take on the whole John Jones situation? Did you see any of that, Carlos? Did you, I'm sure you can tell he was probably going to be happy about it.
I didn't see anything about it. I didn't hear anything about John Jones, like, making any comment about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. You know, it's I wouldn't put him past him that he wouldn't take a jab at a time the guy was down, but I just feel like, and this is the only thing I can understand is like, okay, I thought, and this is in all honesty, he acted like a human being. Okay, like most humans, you lose vision for a little bit, you're gonna panic a little bit. What I understand from the fighters is sometimes you just kind of gotta bite down on your mouthpiece. You don't necessarily have to get back in the fight, is what I'm taking from it. I'm not trying to say that he should have gone back out and fight, especially when you see how deep the fingers went in both eyes. What I'm saying is like when something happens in life, a little obstacle, you kind of got to settle yourself down and try to figure out a plan. He should have just been like, I'm going to give it some time, see if it comes back. If you paid attention to it, he actually started saying I can't see to his corner long before he even went back to the corner.
Mm.
So he was definitely scared, you know what I mean, like
Mm.
that he lost vision in his eye. Makes perfect sense. But Bisping, it's the same thing that happened to him. He just didn't have the chance to panic because he got dropped with that kick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that ended the night. But that's what that was. I think is what the fighters mean is act like a fighter. Tough it out, fight through it. Don't necessarily go back out and fight through it, but you know, uh, don't be a chick about it. Like don't panic. You know what I mean? Like just toughen up a little bit. But um, yeah, with John Jones, I mean, he's going to be Jones. He's going to throw a couple digs out there. And, it's all, I say it's all in good fun because sometimes I find it funny, sometimes I don't, but all in good fun.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The whole situation kind of sucks whether you're on what side you're on, and if you're a Jones hater, Jones lover. But at the end of the day, the fans were the real losers. At the end of the day, I'm happy they're going to obviously do this rematch. I'm actually more excited to see this fight now. I think after the way that the first round played out, I'm looking forward to seeing how Tom bounces back from this. How Garn can take some confidence from it, especially how the early exchanges went. So. Don't think they've got a day booked, obviously, until Tom says he can see. I saw something the other day that said he still can't see like 3 days after. So I'm sure he's still telling his corner that he can't see. Maybe even telling the doctor and the referee that he can't see still. But yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, we're the real losers. But let us know in the comments section below. What do you think about the whole situation? Do you think Tom's a coward? Do you think Garn did it on purpose? Do you think that he needs to kind of man up and throw some icy hot on it, as Shaq would say? Are you John Jones' side? Do you think that this just proves that Tom Aspinall's not the real deal? Let us know in the comments section below. And before we wrap things up, Carlos, what do the people need to do?
First of all, I hope you guys like the content. And second of all, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Whoa, 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 guys. Where are you guys going? We got plenty of videos here on the channel for you guys to check out. Click another video. We have the dog of the week. This week's favorite betting underdog on the whole UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama card. Check that video out. The link should be popping up for you shortly, along with our best bets video for the UFC Fight Night Onama versus Garcia card. There to put some money in your wallets. And as always, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.